Two phones today in for testing of their sound quality, the brand new iPhone X and the Samsung Galaxy S8. Which of these devices will reign supreme? We've got a number of tests to do today, a series of tracks that you can probably see on the phone that should give you a broad idea of how each of these phones performs. The iPhone, of course, has stereo speakers, while the Samsung Galaxy S8 has just a mono speaker. There's some audio recording device hidden just off frame that will capture the amount of sound produced by these phones, and I'll give you an idea about how I think they sound. A little bit of pop there from Carly Rae Jepsen. So what I feel here is that the iPhone X does a really good job with an overall sound. I feel like it has more bass and treble audible from those relatively small speakers than the Samsung Galaxy S8. Now that's not the end of the world. The S8's plenty loud enough. Matches, I'd say, the iPhone X. But for me, with that kind of pop, the iPhone X is the clear winner. So this is quite an interesting test because obviously rock has a lot of quite complicated sound that comes at you all at once. So testing this gives you a pretty good idea of how much a phone can handle that kind of complex music. For me, the iPhone X did a really good job there. The S8, again, it did okay, but I think that there is something about the fact that that phone has a very mid-range sort of sound to it that I think doesn't really play to the strengths of that particular kind of music. Now, obviously, I think it stands to reason that there's no very good reason to use a phone to listen to classical music. It's absolutely not the best way to do it. Here, I feel like the phones start to equalise a little bit. The iPhone X does still sound a little bit better. That dynamic range comes into play with the strings and the highs and stuff like that. Not a lot of bass here, obviously, to worry about. The S8 does an okay job, but again, I feel like that mid-range sound, the kind of lack of high frequency and low frequency response from the speakers is somewhat of a handicap for this phone. It's not bad, it's loud, and a lot of people really want that. It's just that I don't think it has quite the range. I'm actually going to switch that back quickly.
Magic voodoo people.
So no big surprises here. Like AC/DC, the Prodigy has a lot of sound. It's got highs, it's got mid-range, obviously, and it's got a lot of bass. And here again, I kind of feel like that translated well to the iPhone X with a much broader range. But the S8 just doesn't have quite the level of bass response and high treble as the iPhone, which again, with that kind of music, makes a huge difference. But I think where the S8 is going to shine is here on vocals.
I thought that I've been hurt before, but no one's ever left me quite this sore.
Okay, good news. That does confirm that the S8 performs extremely well on vocals in the mid-range. Now that's important because obviously a lot of the things that people do with phones using the speakers isn't listening to music. It's going to be things like watching YouTube videos or listening to podcasts. And in this case, obviously the S8 does perform extremely well with vocals. Now, the iPhone does a pretty good job too. And of course, if we were just doing a vocal test, I'm sure it would be absolutely fine. It's also interesting to note, of course, that there is quite a lot of difference in the audio systems here. Now, while the speakers I don't think are quite as good on the S8, I can tell you that the headphone output is excellent. There is a lot of support in the S8 for high quality audio, very high data rates, which is really good if you're an audiophile. So it is worth bearing in mind that this speaker test is just part of a very large picture when it comes to sound quality. A little bit of opera here. Well, I don't think any opera fans are going to thank us for passing beautiful music through phone speakers like this. But even so, I think the S8 performs pretty well here. The iPhone, of course, does still do a better job overall. And I don't think that's the end of the world. Obviously, the iPhone is a much more expensive device. And that means that the S8 can offer exceptional value for money. Anyway, that's it for this sound test. There'll be more of these in future, so stay tuned to the channel. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And whichever phone you buy, you can get it at Direct Mobiles.